Have you ever realized that as you grow older, the things that used to matter so much suddenly do not feel so important anymore? When we are young, we often believe that having a large network of friends is essential for a fulfilling life. But once we reach our 70s, our life priorities begin to shift. Friendship, which used to be such a big part of our earlier years, no longer holds the same weight. It is not because people have become cold or indifferent. It is because life in old age brings a different perspective, one that values independence, peace, and happiness, that no longer relies on social relationships like it used to. Many people worry that having fewer friends means being lonely, but the truth is actually the opposite. This is not isolation, it is freedom. It is the kind of life where you get to enjoy every moment in your own way, without being tied down by obligations, superficial connections, or unnecessary social pressures. So why does friendship lose its importance as we get older? In today's video, we are going to explore 8 key reasons that will help you better understand a truth that not everyone realizes early on. Having fewer friendships is not a loss. It is a chance to discover true peace in life. Stick around until the end of the video, because you might come to see that letting go of the pressure to maintain friendships is not just liberating. It can actually change the way you see yourself and how you experience the later chapters of your life in a more positive and meaningful way. First, peace becomes more valuable than social interaction. When we are young, we often find joy in get-togethers, lively conversations, and crowded events. But once we enter our 70s, something deeply shifts. Peace starts to matter more than social interaction. Back then, you might have felt that keeping up with many people was essential. The parties, the phone calls, the constant back and forth messages, they all gave you a sense of connection. But over time, you begin to realize that not every conversation holds true value. A lot of relationships turn into habits, repeated stories, routine phone calls that no longer excite you and sometimes even leave you feeling drained. Peace is not loneliness. It is freedom from unnecessary social expectations. It is when you get to spend time with yourself, doing what genuinely makes you happy, without having to worry about meeting anyone else's needs. No more small talk, no more feeling obligated to attend events out of politeness. Just the freedom to live in a way that feels most comfortable to you. Take Margaret, for example. She is a 74-year-old woman who once had a large circle of friends. Her schedule was always packed, with get-togethers, long phone calls, and conversations she did not always want to have. Eventually, she realized that these relationships no longer made her happy. They had turned into a burden. The same stories repeated, the complaints, the endless calls about other people's lives. All of it left her feeling exhausted rather than energized. So Margaret decided to take her time back. She started saying no to invitations that no longer interested her. She gave herself permission to enjoy quiet moments she had never experienced before. She went on walks, embraced nature, read her favorite books, and simply enjoyed the silence of her own company. The amazing thing is, she never felt lonely. In fact, she felt more relaxed and free than ever before. Peace in old age is not emptiness or isolation. It is a gift, a state where you can fully live on your own terms, free from the pressures of relationships that no longer serve you. When socializing becomes an obligation rather than a joy, that is the sign it is time to choose peace over noise. Second, you no longer have to prove yourself to anyone. When we are young, we crave recognition. We try to impress others, build relationships to boost our image, and work hard to earn our place in the world. We put in so much effort to fit in, to be admired, to secure a spot in society. But then one day, old age arrives, and suddenly, all of that just does not seem so important anymore. Think about Harold, a man who spent his whole life chasing his career. He was always busy, always surrounded by co-workers, social meetings, and constant conversations that once felt essential. But when he retired, everything changed. The people who used to be around slowly faded away. He made calls, sent messages, but got little in return. He realized those connections existed only because of work, not because of genuine friendship. At first, Harold felt empty. He wondered if he should keep trying to hold on to those relationships. But then he came to a powerful realization. There was no point in chasing connections that no longer meant anything. So, he let them go. He started spending time with himself and living the life he truly wanted. He found joy in simple things without worrying about what others thought of him. And that is real freedom. When you grow older, you no longer have to prove anything to anyone. You do not need to keep up appearances. You do not need a big group of friends to feel worthy. You just need to be true to yourself and do the things that make you happy. Because in the end, what really matters is not how many people are around you. It is whether or not you feel truly at peace and content inside. Third, fewer friends means fewer disappointments. By the time you are in your 70s, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. The expectations and efforts to maintain relationships just do not carry the same meaning anymore. When we are younger, we often believe that having lots of friends will make life richer. But over time, we begin to see that friendship is not always lasting, and not everyone is as genuine as we once thought. Have you ever tried to keep in touch, only to be met with indifference? Have you ever hoped a friend would be there when you needed them, but ended up feeling let down? Those moments teach us something important. The more relationships we have, the easier it is to get hurt by unmet expectations. We hope someone will care enough to check in, but they stay silent. We look for sincerity, but receive only half-hearted attention. At 70, you no longer want to waste your time on shallow friendships. You do not feel the need to text first, just to keep a connection going, or attend a get-together just for appearances. Instead, you begin to choose the relationships that truly matter. That might be your family, a few close friends who really understand you, or simply the peaceful company of your own self. Having fewer friends is not loneliness, it is liberation. You are no longer tied down by social obligations or the pressure to please others. You can say no to invitations that do not serve you, ignore messages without guilt, and spend time with yourself without feeling bad about it. And the best part is, you feel freer than ever before. In the end, what truly matters is not how many friends you have, but how many people genuinely value you. One honest friendship is worth more than 100 surface-level connections. When you let go of unnecessary relationships, you are not losing anything. You are simply making space for a lighter, more peaceful, and more joyful life. Fourth, true companionship comes from within. When we are young, we tend to believe that the more friends we have, the happier we will be, and that loneliness is something to be afraid of. But once we cross into our 70s, we begin to understand that happiness does not depend on how many people are around us. It comes from a sense of inner peace. Having fewer friends does not make us lonely, because loneliness is not the absence of others. It is the disconnection from ourselves. There are people surrounded by friends who still feel empty inside. And then there are those who are alone, yet feel completely at ease. Friendships can change over time. Even the closest ones may drift apart because of circumstances, life changes, or simply because the bond has run its course. But there is one person who will be with you from the moment you are born until your last breath. And that person is you. So why not learn how to become your own best friend? Instead of looking for joy in others, learn to enjoy the quiet. Instead of waiting for someone else to care, take the time to love and care for yourself. When you can find happiness from within, you will see that you do not need anyone else to feel whole. Being alone does not mean being lonely. It means having the chance to truly listen to and understand yourself. When you let go of relationships that no longer fit, you will feel lighter. The people who truly care about you will naturally stay. You will no longer need to try to be liked or force yourself to fit in with someone just to avoid being alone. You can simply be yourself, and the right people will find their way to you. Youth is all about wanting to be accepted, to belong to a group. But after going through life's ups and downs, you realize that none of that matters anymore. You do not need anyone to validate your worth, because you already have everything you need inside. A quiet morning, a good book, a warm cup of tea. These things can bring happiness, even if no one else is around to see it. So instead of worrying about having fewer friends, start focusing on yourself. Learn to love yourself, take care of yourself, and cherish those peaceful moments. Because in the end, happiness does not come from the number of friends you have. It comes from how you treat yourself. And when you truly love who you are, you will realize that you were never alone, because you have always had the most important companion of all, yourself. Fifth, your time becomes more valuable. When we are young, we tend to believe that time is endless. We can easily spend hours chatting, socializing, or even investing in relationships that do not really matter. But once we reach our 70s, we realize that time is no longer something we can afford to waste. Every day becomes a gift, and how we spend it directly shapes the quality of our life. At this age, we no longer want to use up our time on forced gatherings or repetitive conversations that no longer mean anything. We do not need to keep in touch just to avoid being seen as distant or unfriendly. Instead, we gain the power to choose what truly matters, what brings us joy and peace. Our time should be spent on ourselves, on quiet mornings with a cup of tea, on the books we love, on peaceful moments in nature, rather than being caught up in someone else's schedule. We can use our time to take care of our health, go for a walk, breathe in the fresh air, without rushing. When we begin to value our time more, life becomes lighter and more meaningful. We no longer feel pressured to please others or get pulled into unnecessary social obligations. Instead, we get to enjoy each moment in a way that feels right for us. Turning 70 is not the end of being busy. It is the start of living fully on your own terms. Once you understand how precious time really is, you begin to use it wisely, not for anyone else, but for yourself. Sixth, letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. There are things we hold on to for years without realizing they are the very things weighing us down. Relationships that no longer serve us, faded friendships, social obligations we maintain just to avoid judgment, all become invisible burdens. But when we step into our 70s, we finally have the chance to let go, to live more lightly, and to embrace life more fully. Letting go does not mean giving up or isolating yourself. It means freeing yourself from what no longer fits. When you stop forcing connections that have lost their spark, when you no longer join in meaningless conversations or pretend to care just to be polite, that is when you gain true freedom to choose the connections that bring real joy. Letting go also means rejecting unnecessary social pressure. You do not have to please anyone, and you no longer worry about what people might think if you skip a get-together. You can spend your time exactly how you want, enjoying quiet, doing things that bring you happiness without needing approval from anyone. When we accept that everything changes with time, we learn to let life flow naturally. We stop clinging to the past, stop grieving over what is gone. Instead, we savor the present and cherish what we have now. And something magical happens. We feel lighter, freer, and more at peace than ever before. Letting go of what no longer holds value gives you more time to care for yourself, to do what you love, to live life the way you want. Happiness is not about how many friends you have or how much recognition you get. It is about whether or not you are living in alignment with your true self. Being 70 is not a time to hold on, it is a time to appreciate. When you let go of what no longer matters, you make space for what does. A simple, peaceful, and truly joyful life. 7th, the freedom to live your life without being influenced by others. For most of our lives, we are shaped and steered by the relationships around us. When we are young, we adjust ourselves to fit in with others. We go to social gatherings we are not really excited about. We keep in touch with people we no longer feel connected to, just because we are afraid of being judged, forgotten, or making someone upset. But once we step into our 70s, we finally realize we no longer have to live according to someone else's expectations. This is the time to live the way we truly want and to enjoy life at our own pace. In the past, we might have felt the need to reply to messages immediately, attend family events even when we were not in the mood, or keep up small talk out of duty. But now, we have the right to say no to invitations without having to come up with excuses or feel guilty about it. We are no longer pressured to maintain relationships that do not bring us joy. We can choose to keep the connections that are meaningful rather than forcing ourselves to maintain appearances. When you stop adjusting yourself just to please others, you begin to live for yourself. If you want a quiet morning reading a book, you can enjoy it without worrying about turning down an invitation. If you want to have a peaceful meal without interruptions, you are free to do so without having to explain it to anyone. You can go for walks, listen to music, and do things that truly bring you joy without needing someone else to tag along. There is no need to pretend to enjoy dull conversations or force yourself into gatherings you never wanted to join in the first place. When we are young, we often get caught up in the whirlwind of relationships out of fear of being alone, fear of being left behind. But after we have walked most of life's journey, we begin to understand that happiness does not always require the presence of others. True happiness comes from freedom, living authentically, doing what we love without being influenced by anyone else's expectations. It is time to enjoy life in the way we want to, not for anyone else, but for ourselves. 8th, true happiness comes from simple things, not the number of relationships. In our younger years, we often believe that happiness comes from exciting experiences, from being surrounded by people, from having a vibrant social life. But as we grow older, we come to see that true happiness lies in the simple moments, not in how many people we have in our lives. Happiness can be something as simple as a quiet morning with a warm cup of tea, a peaceful afternoon reading your favorite book, or a walk in nature while breathing in the fresh air. When you are young, you may feel the need to share those moments with others. But after all the ups and downs life has brought, you realize that joy does not always come from someone else's presence. It comes from how you experience those moments yourself. The more relationships you have, the more likely you are to get caught up in conflict, expectations, and invisible pressure. But when you let go of what is unnecessary and focus on the simple things, you begin to feel a peace you may have overlooked before. True happiness is not about how many friends you have or how many people care about you. It is about whether you can live fully and comfortably, enjoying your life without needing to depend on anyone else. Once you are in your 70s, you no longer need to chase after a wide social circle or hold on to friendships just because you are afraid of being alone. You do not have to prove yourself to anyone. You do not have to stay in touch with people who no longer matter, and you are no longer tied down by what others expect of you. Instead, you get to choose the life that makes you happiest, a life where you can enjoy peace, focus on what truly matters, and spend time with yourself without pressure. Letting go of relationships that no longer fit is not a loss, it is a release. When you let go of what no longer serves you, you make room for the things that truly do. You can spend time doing what you love, living your life your way, without needing validation from anyone else. Happiness does not come from the number of friends you have, it comes from living the life that feels whole and right to you. So what about you? Do you agree that as we get older, friendships may no longer be the most important thing? Have you ever felt relieved after letting go of a relationship that no longer fit? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss future content. Let's continue sharing fresh perspectives on life and enjoy our later years in the way we truly want.